The Defender system is comprised of 3 layers of overlapping plates that add up to around a ½ inch of steel assembly that is connected via 5 shared studs which mount to the brake assembly flange. The fenders are then attached to the backing plate assembly via 90-degree brackets with many nuts and bolts. This is a very well designed system and will protect your trailer from a blowout if it ever occurs. I have had a blowout at 70 miles an hour and it is really destructive. This system will stop that destruction by containing the wheel within that fender system. Remember, the entire fender system moves with the wheel, so the entire thing moves as a unit along with the axle. You don't have to worry about the blowout tearing anything up on the bottom side of your trailer. All right, good morning everybody. We're going to be putting the RV Defender's fender protection system for a blowout on the tire on this 35-foot Arctic Fox trailer. Let me get you over to the other side so you can see what's going on here. Hang on. All right, here we are to the other side. I have the wheels taken off already. I'll pan around here. Here's the 2 tires, no big deal. But here's where we run into problems here. Let's get up underneath here so you can see what's going on. This shock mount right here, the distance between this edge and the alignment, this edge of the brake assembly to this edge has to be greater than the size of the RV Defender fender system, and it is way too close. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this plate and turn it around and mount the shocks on the inside of the frame. We have the ability to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to burn this shock tower off. I'll just take a angle grinder with a rubber wheel on it, and we'll actually cut through the weld right here, and I'll cut through the weld right here. I'll take it off and I'll mount it to the other side. But one of the things we have to do is pay attention to the distance from here to this face so that we don't get it too long or too short. Right now, one is at 10 5/8, the other one is at 10 5/16. Let me show you the other one that has been turned around. Let's flip around here to this side. Okay, and as you can see now, I have turned this plate already around. So I'm getting ready to take this shock tower off. And we're going to turn this thing around, burn it off there, cut it off there, and then we're going to mount it to the other side. And we'll follow you through this thing step by step as we go. Okay, now we're back at it. And as you can see, if I can get in here, that the shock tower, or the shock mounting plate, has been turned around. I have a tremendous amount of clearance. I've got at least 2.5 inches of clearance now between the plate and the edge of the brake assembly, which allows me to put that entire RV Defender system in there now. Now that we have the shock towers that were mounted to the I-beam burned off, this is what it looks like here, and this is what it looks like here. And you can see that I have the plate on this side turned around as well. And if we look down here, this is what they look like. So it's just all it is a piece of U channel, C channel. Get it so you can see it here. It's just a piece of C channel, another piece of a U channel that's been welded on, and that's what the shock mounts to, right through here. And the other one mounts right through here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is mount these to the inside of the frame now. I'll get back with you shortly here. You don't need to see me do all the welding and grinding. And how did I cut through the welds? All right, so I used this guy right here, and I used this guy right here. All it is a carbide burr with an air grinder with a dovetail wheel on it so I can get in near the edge. That's it. All right, here we are again. So I have the shocks mounted to the new plate. So as you can see, we got plenty of clearance to the brake drum or the brake assembly in here. And the shock is now mounted to that dude. And the new tower locations are mounted on the top of the shock and clamped down. Same thing for this side. So we're ready to weld this thing up. But I have one other thing to talk to you about. Hang on. I'm over here now, the power panel, making sure that the switch that was on is now in the off position. Also, we are disconnecting the battery from the trailer. We have the ground cable off. There's the wrenches. The ground cable has been disconnected. One more thing. Some of the electronics in this trailer are very, very sensitive to voltage spikes of any kind. So this is the refrigerator connection right here. I am going to disconnect the refrigerator, both sides. We are not taking any chances of ruining that refrigerator a second time. Now that optical board that's on the refrigerator is very, very sensitive to high voltage spikes, so we're not taking any chances. Disconnect everything that you can think of that would cause or have a weld arc flash on the frame cause any high voltage spikes on the DC side. And we do not have any AC connected to this thing at all. So just want to make sure that you understand that. All right, we're going to get on to the welding. I'll see you. All right, here we go. Both shock towers have been welded in. Here and here. It's hard to see because the light doesn't want to show it, but here we are. So now, you can see now we have our plates turned around, our shock's mounted. Plates turned around, our shock is mounted back here. And I used a little stick that was cut to 10 3/4 to set the distance of the shock length so that it wouldn't get in the wrong spot. Okay, good morning. This is the next day. Yesterday involved getting the tires off, cutting loose the shock tower supports which were in here, remounting them and welding them to the inside of the I-beam, and assembling one of the RV Defenders. For those of you who have never put one of these on, it is time consuming. So we've already had day 1, we're on to day 2. So now you can see I have the hub off on this side. I've taken an old shirt sleeve and put it over the axle to protect the grease, and I'm getting ready to start taking out. I've got all the nuts off the studs, and I'm going to take the studs out. We will put the standoffs in, which mounts everything, and we'll continue to show things as we progress along here. I'll see you shortly. All right, the studs are in. As you can see here, the studs are in. I'm getting ready to put on the backing plates that connect to the studs. One of the things we have to be overly concerned about is the wires that come out of the axle that are for the electric brakes. We cannot chafe on those. We can't do anything. So Zach doesn't have this position just quite right. So basically what I did is I had to saw out this little piece. So I'm going to take it out of the way. And now we have plenty of clearance for that anti-chafe washer that's in the axle and the wires to sneak by here. And for that little wire loom that we're going to put on top of the wires to stop any chafing action. So this gives us plenty of clearance in here. This does not degrade any strength around the studs. If you'll notice here, this is what it looked like. This is what it looked like prior. This is what it looks like after. We've not changed any of the material close to the stud location. We're good to go here. It's just something you guys need to be aware of when you start to assemble this thing. you just may have to put a little extra clearance on these parts to clear for those wires for the axle brakes. Alright, so we had to modify this part, not the other part that I just showed you a moment before. This is the aft section. This is the aft section of the brake, or the RV Defender system, and I had to clear this little piece right here. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like before I made the cut, and now we look like this after the cut. So make sure we deburr this real well so we don't chafe on the wires as we're going down the road vibrating. And put this guy on, she'll fit like a dream. Alright, see ya. Alright, so here's the area I was talking about. We want to make sure that that wire loom can get by that notch and not impede on the wires for the brakes. As you can see, I had to cut quite a bit of it away to make that happen. So make sure you take this into consideration when you start putting your assembly on. Alright, see ya. Alright, here we are, a couple hours later. Fender number 2 is on. So I've got one side completed. I have to put the main brake drum on yet. That'll be next. And we'll start on the other side. See you shortly. Alright, here we are. We have the tires on now. Re-greased the wheel bearings, and we're ready to start on the other side. So we will do a very itemized description on that as we go step by step here. I'll see you. Alright, here we are, day 3. On the other side, I've already ground the shock towers off. Oops, here. Alright, I've ground the shock towers off. I think you can see that. And down here the shock towers are ground off. And now we're getting ready to put on the pins. The standoffs have been put on and pulled in tight. Let me show you from the inside. Alright, I think you can see that. The shock tower pins are in there. They're in on the other side. One thing I found out about this assembly is that this single bracket, not the L bracket like this, not this one, this single bracket is what goes to the rear end of the trailer. Just like that. And what you want to make sure of on this side, you can see this wire that comes down here and that wire that goes down there. That's the power that goes across the axle to the other side, but it also does this side as well. And you want to make sure, I hope you guys can see that, is the wire loom is sticking out of there. We had to modify the bracket to have a larger notch so that all the wires could get out of there and not get chafed, so that this whole thing so the power wires can be behind the Defender fender. So these wires need to be behind the fender. And they also need to be tied off so that they don't shake and jiggle and chafe up onto the frame here. That's one of the things I'm going to have to work on before I put the main plate on here. But I just want to give you a heads up on this. So we'll catch you shortly here. Alright, here is where I was talking about modifying the notch. Notice this is the factory notch right here. Notice that factory notch is where my finger was and how much I had to extend, because the axle rotation is wrong from the welding assembly at the axle manufacturer. So we just clear out a bigger notch in here so that we make sure we have protection on that wire. We don't want to be pinching or chafing on that wire. Alright, here we are at the late afternoon, day 3. We finally got both defenders on the driver's side now. The defenders are all on. They look good. If you'll notice that the rear one is almost level with the ground. The front one is turned counterclockwise, I should say clockwise a little bit. What I've found is that the axle manufacturers, when they weld those spring plates, that mount to the leaf springs, when they put them on the assembly, they don't get them in quite the same rotation as the other axle. So now we have a different orientation on the Defender system. No big deal, it's going to work just fine. So we're going to finish this thing up after we get the brake pads for the Dexter brake system, and we'll call it a day. Whoever decides to attempt the Defender system, it is a lot of bolts, it's a lot of work. I'm a good mechanic, and it didn't test my patience. There's a lot of it. So anyway, that's gives you the long and the short of it. Forrest Mormon here, giving you an update on installing the RV Defenders. The Defenders system took around 15 to 18 hours to install on 2 different axles. Some of this time was chewed up by clearing the brake wire cable notches in the 3 separate Defender plates, which make up the entire sandwich assembly on this rig. I had an additional 6 to 8 hours of shock tower removal and replacement with welding, along with turning the spring shock mounting plates around 180 degrees and rebolting them up to the leaf spring assembly. All right, this is Bud Mormon signing out, everyone. Safe travels. Stay safe out on the road. I'll see you out there sometime. Bye-bye.